Hi guys, this is Sal. So I've been playing this game called Star Trek Fleet Command for the last couple of years. I really enjoy it, and I wanted to start my own YouTube channel to talk about it. And my channel is really going to focus more around some of the PvP elements of the game, as well as some of the higher level content. It's a bit different than some of the other content creators out there. So, I play on Server 40. Big shout out to Server 40. And my alliance name is called Borg. So, hello Borg mates. Now you guys all know what I look like. I'm Ops 54. So I am, kind of a whale, I guess, in that regard. I've got a lot of the more in-game ships that I can kind of show everybody how to use and all that fun stuff. So, with today's video, it's my first video, my primary goal is really just to kind of go over the basic elements of the combat triangle, as well as, the three basic PvP officers, Marcus, Khan, Charvanik, as well as a little bit into, Yuki, as well as Arnagard Worf, because they're used quite frequently for PvP. So with that, I kind of have one of the deep space systems pulled up on my phone. If we look at one of these hostiles and we click, it works. If we click on it, you get the combat triangle. So, this is the same rock, paper, scissors mechanism that's, in a lot of other strategy games. So what it's basically telling you is that battleships counter explorers, explorers counter interceptors, and interceptors counter battleships. Now, why does that work like that? That's where we'll have to dig a little bit deeper into, the attack metrics. There's three basic attack metrics, as well as the defense metrics. And there are three basic defense metrics that we'll talk about. And then we'll have a good idea in terms of, why the battle triangle works. So, without further ado, I'm going to pull up some of the, G5 ships, just because most people haven't been able to see them yet, and they look really cool. We scroll all the way to the right, scrolling. We get, we'll start off with battleships. This is the Romulan G5 Epic battleship. And if you click on details, then we can kind of look at, the basic metrics. So here in attack, we're going to primarily focus on these three metrics: armor pierce, shield pierce, and accuracy. So it's a combination of these that are going to really affect how much damage you're able to deal to your opponent, be it a hostile or another player. So with battleships, you can see that, its highest part of these three stats, the highest one of them is shield pierce. And this kind of tells you why it can work well against explorers, because explorers have, good shield deflection. So what is shield deflection? That is part of your defense metrics. And this is really saying how you mitigate damage that's being dealt to you from either hostiles or players. And three basic elements here: armor, shield deflection, and dodge. So again, for battleships here, you see that the highest component here is armor. So it has 2 million armor and then some shield deflection and dodge as well. So quick refresher on battleships, highest mitigation metric, armor. Highest damage dealing metric, attack metric, is shield pierce. Now we're going to go look at a Rotaran, which is an epic G5 Klingon Interceptor. So with the Interceptor, again, if we look at the attack metrics, you see that its highest metric here is armor pierce. So if we recall the battleship, the biggest mitigation damage metric that it has is armor, and then the highest attack damage on an interceptor is armor pierce. So we kind of get an idea of how they kind of counter, of why interceptors counter battleships. So, shield pierce, accuracy are kind of, middle of the road. And then if we look at the interceptors, defensive metrics and mitigation metrics, we see that, armor is pretty low, and shield deflection is pretty low, that's pretty high. Dodge, okay? That's the interceptor. Now we look at an explorer type class ship. So this is the Federation G5 Epic. It's the USS Enterprise D. And if we look at this, again, in attack of those three stats that we look at, it's highest in accuracy, okay? And defense, it's highest in shield deflection. So if we kind of sum this up, basically, we look at this and we say, armor pierce counters armor, shield pierce counters shield deflection, and accuracy counters dodge. So now we have a good idea as to why the combat triangle works like it does. So with that, let's look at basically some of the PvP officers and the basic PvP officers I want to talk about. I'm going to pull those up, sort by strength. So here they are. So I've got Marcus pulled up here, and his primary officer ability is Shield Pierce. And if we recall back to the ship classes, the class with the most shield deflection were Explorers. So if you think about it this way, you just say, okay, Marcus is anti-Explorer. Now, with the same line of thought, we look at Kong. Kong, his primary officer ability is Accuracy. So, accuracy counters dodge. And which type of ship has a lot of dodge? Interceptors. So we think of Khan as anti-interceptor. And the last one is Charvonic. Charvonic's primary officer ability is going to be Armor Pierce. So, which counters armor. So she's a good anti-battleship type officer. Two other officers I want to kind of talk about aside from these. One being Yuki. Yuki is, she's on one of my ships, so if we look at her captain ability, her base ability is actually 10% off of shield health per round. It's showing 15% because she's on a ship with Marcus as on the bridge as well, so there's synergy, 5% of synergy there. So basically it decreases shield health, every round. And if you look at that, she's good for any type of ship, but basically she works really great on Explorers. Or against Explorers, sorry. And the other officer you kind of want to pull up is Worf. And Worf is right here. He's one of the best PvP officers, and the primary reason for that is because he increases critical hit chance. Now, critical hits deal, a lot more damage than regular hits. It's typically 2 to 3 times, depending on your research. So, this is basically guaranteeing that you're doing a lot of damage. So when paired with an officer that has, the attribute you're looking for when you're attacking the opponent's ship class. So let's say I'm attacking an interceptor, then I would, most likely use my own Explorer, and I would use, Kong as well as Worf to kind of maximize the amount of damage that I can do to that interceptor class. Okay, so that's kind of why Worf is a great officer. All right, so we're going to look at some example, crew layouts that I have on hand. My biggest ship is my Corvus. It's an Explorer. So I guess, when you're PvPing, you always have to answer 1, what's my biggest ship? 2, who am I fighting? And what are their biggest ships? And what ship classes are they? And based on those answers, you kind of come up with different loadouts that would, ensure that you're successful, or at least more successful compared to, other layouts that you could have. So here on my Corvus is an example of a anti-explorer type loadout, because I'm fighting a lot of other players that have, let's say, Enterprise A's, which are G4 Epics, other explorer type ships. So with that, what I've done was, her being my flagship, my strongest ship, I have Worf assigned. And in addition to Worf, which is giving me all that extra damage from critical hits for the first 8 rounds, I have Yuki and Marcus. And we kind of went over how Yuki kind of decreases shield health. And as you decrease shield health, you do extra damage to hull. And then you have Marcus, which is, shield piercing, which kind of negates the shield deflection that's on Explorers. Okay, so my secondary ship that I have right now that I've got crewed for anti-explorer is my Coronar. And if we look at this crew loadout, it's got Khan. So remember, Khan is anti-interceptor. So on a Coronar, it's going to work really well, because a Coronar already has really high accuracy. Khan increases that accuracy, so it makes it easier to kill that enemy interceptor. So the other thing I want to kind of talk about is that I also have TOS O'Hara captain with TOS Kirk on the side. Why do I do that? It's just in case, my opponent's ship, my opponent might have Honor Guard Worf on their ship. And really, basically, TOS O'Hara negates Honor Guard Worf. And why do I say that? We can kind of tell from here. You can see that with Synergy and TOS Kirk, that it reduces the opponent's critical hit chance by 110%. So basically, it says, you know, 0. They have 0 chance of actually having a critical hit when TOS O'Hara is active. And you pair her with TOS Kirk for 2 reasons. 1, you have to have morale for this captain ability to be active. And 2, because TOS Kirk increases O'Hara's base critical hit chance reduction. Her base critical hit chance reduction is about 25%. With TOS Kirk on the bridge, and the synergy that's involved in that increases to 110%. In addition, you know, TOS O'Hara would be a great option, anti-explorer option as well, because her primary officer ability is just basically ignore shield deflection. 20% off of shield mitigation of opponent's ship per round with morale. So, you know, she would also be a good officer. So, you know, TOS O'Hara, TOS Kirk, and maybe Marcus would be a good kind of set to be an anti-explorer type ship. You know, if I'm looking to change this loadout to be anti-battleship, I would probably have to have, I'm going to pull up my Corvus first because it's easier. You know, it's got Worf, so I would do something like Worf Captain with maybe Charlonic on the side. And then, you know, I have a 3rd officer slot that I haven't really thought about what I would do, but I would probably do some type of mitigation to kind of help increase my survivability, because they released some new officers. And if we sort by group, you see that I think it was Galron. Yeah, you see Galron increases the shield deflection by 800% at T3, so he's a pretty good officer to have. So, you know, in this type of set, it would be a good, you know, going against the grain anti-battleship type crew, because with Worf, with that synergy now, he's at, you know, 30% of crew attack whenever increases armor pierce by 30% of crew attack whenever the score hits a critical hit. The ship scores a critical hit, and you know, you're going to get critical hits with Worf anyway. And then Charvonic, of course, we know is armor pierce as well. And then Galron is great because he increases the shield deflection. So that kind of helps you a little bit when you're going kind of against the triangle. Okay, so I mean, that's kind of the basis of what I wanted to talk about for my first video. We'll go into some more details on specific, you know, crew sets, or, you know, more of the, you know, G4 economy, and how to kind of, you know, plan out which G4 ships are going to be in later videos. But for today, I think that's it. So thank you for viewing, and don't forget to leave some comments below and subscribe. Thanks so much.